I'm Sally Jenks. I'm a public health specialist within NHS Rotherham, and one of my current remits is making every contact count. And within that programme area, I've linked that to some other work I do, which is the NHS Health Check programme and also the pharmacy and public health campaigns and essential service contract work. I've been working with this framework for probably about a year now. I inherited this work, so I wasn't around with the development of it. So where I've come in is actually the implementation sort of phase of it. And how I've used it is it's been a really useful structure for actually some very easy win type pieces of work, some very opportunistic pieces of work, and it gives some sort of robust framework to actually sort of pushing those forwards. Right. One of those pieces of work relates to the essential services contract around pharmacists. That's one of the first things that I picked up and used the framework with. So how I worked it was, we had this framework, fabulous. We had a set of competencies that were generic, which were simplistic, which counter staff and pharmacists alike could use. So we ran some training, and the pharmacists that attended the training actually had all 6 elements of their public health campaigns accredited for that year, and it was really successful. We've then taken that one step further this year, and we are now expecting them to report on their signposting activity when they're in actual in-store, so whether they're doing it over the counter or whether they're using it in medicines use reviews and other sort of opportunistic one-to-one settings with their customers. Providers can use it for CPD purposes, and then commissioners can use it to assess what level of competence is actually out there in the wider workforce that you're getting, and we just need to get more people trained with the skills in brief advice. What's happened is we sold it as a refresher to the pharmacists because they actually do it, and they actually do it to a reasonable competency level. You know, looking at level 2, level 3 potentially if they're doing some of the medicines use reviews. Yep. Counter staff are doing level 1 competency. So really, in terms of them as if we look at it in a service, great, you've got the broad range of competency levels. So what we wanted to do was make it attractive. We needed to get them in 6 o'clock on a December's night. It's a refresher course. It's in a nutshell. This is very simplistic. You don't have to be the expert. There are plenty of people out there who can then help, and we sold it on that basis. And having the competency levels available to demonstrate that actually this is what your counter staff are doing. You're actually working at quite a high level anyway. If you look at that and want to take the self-assessment, you can actually gauge where you are actually working. And I think for them that's been really useful.
So do you think that's helped them transform their confidence level?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just that even as a result, some of the feedback we got as a result of that actual session was that they felt more confident in doing it. And it was as simple as going over it again, really demystifying it and using very simplistic language and just using even the competency ruler and the confidence ruler. Yeah. And they thought, you could see pennies dropping. Yeah. So that for me was... That hit it on the head when I thought, yeah, we've nailed it now.
Good.
We can't afford to sustain buying in leaflets and just giving them out and expecting people to distribute them. Invariably they don't, and we know that leaflets are useful, but they're not the be-all and end-all. And by doing this, what I wanted to do was refocus how we approach the public health campaigns and the signposting. Not make the general public the end user of it, but actually flip it 180 and have the pharmacists and the counter staff actually as the focus of the public health campaign, so then they could go out and make every contact count. So we have to think about the sustainability of it. We're certainly, from my perspective, public health's moving into a local authority setting soon, so we won't be in the health service arena in this scope. So it was also a way of looking at how we could look at sustainable, integrated approaches to running this work through the essential services contracts. We got really good response from the evaluation. I did do some further visits in terms of going out to them to discuss what they were doing, and they were really, really keen. I did actually offer them a one-time only special offer, in as much as they could disseminate some free leisure passes that we'd commissioned for the NHS Health Check programme. And so what we did was I made the decision to saturate Rotherham in level 1 competency trained trainers, which we've done, and we've got trainers now in Rotherham from the fire service, we have the police service, we've got the voluntary sector, we've got Groundwork Durham Valley have undertaken the training and trained trainers. Who else have we got? R-Dash have been phenomenal, and they're using it with masses of their staff, and that fits very nice with some of their sequin measures they've got around public health and health promotion, health improvement interventions, so it's beneficial to them as a provider service. We've got the private sector involved, so we've got DC Leisure who run our the contract for our local leisure centres, and also NHS Rotherham commissions some work from them as well. So we've got really broad scope of trainers trained to deliver that locally. So that can industrialise the brief advice message as we move forward. And I think it's about changing the mindset and the culture of some of the organisations. Some of them they've opened arms with this.
Yes,
I mean, certainly R-Dash have been phenomenal, and they've identified a lead and they're taking it on. Fire service the same, you know, in terms of some of the clients that they're working with, in terms of their home fire safety checks, and the LifeWise work they do with younger people. Police service, again, they're working with a different range of clients. They've got potentially young kids that are vulnerable, at risk, or have just offended, and they're trying to look at strategies for sort of helping them out. Those are the kids that might not be at school and might not be accessing youth services as well, so they're a difficult group. So there's I don't think there's a lot of limitation actually with how you can filter this work into it. My next focus is the local authority, obviously with a natural transition over to local authority for public health. That's where I see it now needing to have a strong leadway into, and I think we need to do that from two angles. We need to do it from a grassroots perspective, where us on the ground are actually taking this message forward, but I think as well regionally we need some really senior support in terms of getting that message through to the chief executives and actually feeding it through from a double-pronged perspective.